Welcome to Writers on Writers, a virtual broadcast with writers talking to other writers about, wait for it, writing. I am your host and writer, Danielle Bannister, and this month's broadcast theme is Paranormal. And because of that, my guest today is Belinda, writer of all things paranormal. Welcome, Belinda.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here today and being, the first in my guest virtual program here. I have no idea what I'm doing, clearly.
We're winging.
So thank you for being willing to try this process out with me, work out the kinks, and thank you.
You're welcome. I love you.
I love you too. Before we dive into talking about the world of paranormal writing in books, would you mind telling us a little bit about you, the books that you've written, and maybe when you knew that you wanted to be a writer?
Okay, well, I'm Belinda, obviously. Every time I'm like brain farting. This is part of being a writer. You brain fart. You have all these million thoughts in your head.
Absolutely.
Well, I write paranormal. I write urban fantasy. I do have a few contemporaries because the characters wouldn't, they were very adamant. But for the most part, I read, I write, I love all things paranormal fantasy and urban fantasy. And so I used to write before, but then growing up doing odd pieces and stuff, but it wasn't really until I was in therapy that I was encouraged to do some writing. And that's when I did kind of like a fanfic for the Jonas Brothers called Love Bug, where I was hired as their tutor.
Nice.
Of all things.
Hey.
Which is interesting because at the time I was going to school and I was a math tutor, biology tutor, English tutor, Spanish tutor. I tutored everything. And so that's what I was to the Jonas Brothers, tutoring them.
Was it that kind of book, was it?
No, it was very, very innocent. And so, yeah. And then I enjoyed that. But I always thought, you know what happens if I just have one idea? And so I was encouraged. And then around that time, I watched a Harry Potter movie in the theaters. My friend said, dude, they have the books. Because I hadn't really read. It wasn't, I was like an avid reader growing up, but then I'd stopped. So then I started, and then it was, I'm reading this, and it just kind of exploded. But it started with Harry Potter. And then one Christmas, my husband gave me one of Christine Feehan's books, The Dark Carpathian.
Oh,
and that's what got me into the paranormal romance for adults. And I remember going, oh my gosh!
Your gateway book.
It's not the same as young adults that fade to black or don't even have it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. And it exploded from there. But I just found notebooks where I was going to write a fanfic for that series too. So it kind of went from there. And then, it just kind of went from there. Yeah. And I had a dream because I have about 25 books. And the first book that I did was the Mystic Wolves series. And it came from a dream where, but they were human. There was a scene that I had, they were human. And I was like, oh, that's so boring. We got to make it something. And so, and I was a vamp girl. I was such a vampire girl, but I was like, there's so many vampire books. What else? So I started reading Kelly Armstrong, and I was like, oh my gosh, Kelly Armstrong. And so I did werewolves, and that's where that came from. And then I did Nano, and that's when I did my Broken Promises, which is like an urban fantasy that's the Fae take over the world, or they're starting to take over. And so it kind of went from there. It really did. I never thought that I'd write contemporary. I did write one, but absolutely, I love writing paranormal. I love that I can create the world. If I want my character to do this, it's not bound by any rules. And yeah, everything about it. It's what I read, it's what I write, it's what I'm drawn to, even what I watch. Like, I love the fantasy, supernatural, paranormal kind of. I like it. If I'm going to escape from the world, I want to go
You
to where
really
there's
escape
bad.
from the world.
Yeah, and because sometimes I like as I've written and as I've gone on, I truly believe that sometimes the biggest monsters are humans. So let me escape this
Yeah.
and what's going, especially now with what's going on in the world, and
Yeah.
I've got no control over it. I love being able to slip into
Yeah.
books or to write my own and just be like, I get to control this world at least.
It's interesting that you made that connection with therapy, because I really do think writing and reading are like therapy. It is that form of escapism from the reality that you're living in, which can sometimes just really be too much. And to just, step away for a few hours into some other universe really just sort of takes off that anxiety and that stress that life can bring. So I definitely see writing as being therapeutic, just like reading can be. I know I find it to be.
It's sometimes you just and the harder things are, the more voracious you are as a reader too. One thing I like though, like for me, I can only say personally, but I'm sure I'm not the only one. If someone came up to you just in real life and said da 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 and gave you a whole lot of platitudes or a whole lot of advice, most times we kind of bristle. But imagine reading it in your story, or like I know that I've been writing books and I'm going on things in reality, in my real life, and then I realize, holy cow, like, oh, epiphany. Okay, this, it's almost like you can also work through your own issues via the character, and it's safer. This is a safe place
Absolutely.
for you to
Absolutely.
process emotion. Um, it's just, to me, it's an essential part of who I am, and just being able to deal with stuff. It's more than just escaping. It's more than just,
It's processing too. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And it's that safe place. If you could call it a safe place, like when you're reading something and it's peril and danger and death, and yeah, but it's a
Yeah.
safe place because yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my 2 cents about
So
that.
is that what drew you to write Paranormal? That trying to create your own worlds outside of reality? Is that why it was paranormal, or was it because of your introduction to the world of Harry
Yeah,
Potter, and sort of that was your first introduction, sort of really to
I
that?
think
Or
the latter, yeah, because what I was reading, I loved it, and I couldn't get enough of it. And it's funny because I remember saying to my husband, the the speed in which I'm reading and the amount that I'm going to run out of books. There's not going to be enough paranormal. And then I started a blog, and um, was introduced to indie authors then. I was like, holy cow, there's a world, and
well,
indie
look, a lot
authors.
more books I can read.
And the speed in which indie authors produce amazing books, and because there's nothing that's holding or stopping it. And so it was just, oh wow, wow, wow. And then e-readers came. Like, I started writing right when ebooks and stuff had come out, and so there was this big explosion that was just amazing. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was influenced more by what I was reading and loving and devouring.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
it
But that also
fed.
makes you good at writing that genre, because you know the genre very well. You know what readers expect, what they want in that type of
Yeah,
book. So it's actually doing a great service to your readers by reading within your
100%.
genre.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to write something that I don't know or that I don't love either. I'm like, I love my characters and the stories just as much. And so I pour all that love and excitement into my stories, hoping that it then translates to the reader. So that, yeah, I love it. I love all things paranormal.
So I
But
was
not
dragged
all.
actually into Paranormal Kicking and Screaming by Amy Miles. She was pulled into the Havenwood Falls series because she writes a lot of fantasy, and Christy Cook tapped her to ask her if she would write a story for their series. And Amy's like, you should do it too. And I said, I don't really like paranormal. I don't know. See, I'm the opposite. World building for me terrifies me. I like things that I know what they look like. I know what they see. I don't like making things up. That is hard for me. It's a lot of work for me. And so diving into this was a little outside of my comfort zone, which is why I decided to do it, because I wanted to stretch. Yeah, to stretch and be something else. But it was also comforting that I didn't have to build the world entirely on my own, because there were parameters in place. Now, we both have written in this Havenwood Falls world, which consists of multiple authors, multiple types of books within this. Could you talk to us a little bit about what Havenwood Falls is for anybody who maybe hasn't stumbled upon this massive series of books?
It's huge. I think there's over 100 books now. I think.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And, I always tell people, if they don't know about Havenwood Falls, I tell them, what are you waiting for? Hurry up. Because it is, everyone I talk to, they want to be part of it. They want to live there. I want to move there. All the authors that, as we're writing these, we want to be there. It's this Colorado town in the Colorado mountains. They've got magical wardings and stuff. So if anyone comes in and stumbles out, they can't reveal the truth of what's going on in Havenwood Falls. And it's humans coinciding with supernaturals. You've got all kinds of supernatural creatures, witches, shifters, vampires, you got fae. There's so much more. Like,
it's mind-boggling the amount of characters that exist.
It's insane in so many places, and so many authors have added their touch and their part to it.
And when you're writing a book within that series, you're expected to mention other places, other locations and other characters from other books that you haven't written, so that it does sort of feel like it's a collaboration. So when you are writing a book, you are talking to several different authors about, like, hey, can you tell me about your character, and would they say something like this, or would they phrase it like this? So there's a lot of collaboration, even with just writing one on your own.
Like for one of my characters, Sedona, she owns the bookstore, Shelf Indulgence. She goes to Coffee Haven, and so there's characters within there that aren't characters that I've created. So then I've got to do that. There's a consignment store. She has friends with other people, and so you're not just collaborating with other characters, but with other authors, which is probably one of the biggest blessings from being part of Havenwood Falls. Is it gives us a group of authors of your peers that you can network with, build friendships with, and it takes that you're alone part. And that's also good too, because you can brainstorm, like, oh my gosh, I've got to get this to happen. What do you think? Or
would your character be willing to do something like this, or is it within their powers to do X, Y, or Z, or can we modify their powers so that my character can do this? And it's just amazing the level of collaboration.
Can I hurt your character? Can I kill him? What can I do?
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's a lot of that for sure.
We had that just in the recent collaboration with the new release that just happened with the Sun and Moon Academy. I was talking to one of the authors, and they're like, well, what is your character going to do? I said, I'll do this to him. He's fine. Well, okay, how are we going to solve it? I'll just leave him that way. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
And because, and I love it. I love everything part of it. But yeah, the whole world building of this is going into that World Bible Forum and
Yeah.
being able to look and say, okay, this is what I need. This is who fits this, and it's probably been one of the best things that I've done. Being part of Havenwood Falls came in a point in my life where I needed that community.
And it
Not
is a
only,
community for sure with the readers and the
yeah,
writers. It's definitely a community of, if you're
and I
looking for
need,
something paranormal, this is the place to go because you'll be reading for a long time.
yeah, right. And
Crazy.
I just love it,
Yeah.
everything about it. But yeah, it's, if you haven't had a chance to read it, it's on Kindle Unlimited too. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, it's such a big series, oh my gosh,
Well, and what
pandemic,
I like about it
running
too
out of money.
is
Yeah.
that there's four different sort of
Oh yeah.
categories of books. So it really sort of takes every type of reader and can thread them through. So there's sort of the main line, which is sort of a
Yeah.
contemporary line. And then there's the young adult line, which is like high school. So there's paranormal high school sort of stuff. So if you have young
Mhm.
readers, there's the legends line, which is Havenwood several years back to sort of how it became to be. And then there's the Silk and Sin line, which is like the sexy, after dark sort of. So if you like that too. So there really is sort of something for everybody. If you like
I like
paranormal
that
stuff,
too.
which is goblins and whatever, there's a little something for everybody.
It
And that each
really
story is
is.
sort of on its own. So you don't have to read them in order per se.
Yeah.
You can sort of pick up essentially. There's a few that sort of tie in together, but those are pretty well marked which ones are. But
Yeah, and usually the ones that tie in together are written by the same author.
right.
Like I have Nowhere to Hide. The sequel to that carries on is Addicted to You. I have Blood and Damnation. The next one goes on Wrath and Retribution. So usually you can tell what goes together, but for the
Yeah.
most part, that's what I love too, is like, oh, I want to read something Fae. Okay, let me go look to see what books cover Fae in the Havenwood Fall. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm feeling something like this. And they're also novellas too, so they're not long reads where
Right.
it'll take you like weeks to get through.
Right.
Um, I really feel like this whole world and series, it caters to every kind of reader,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
I,
good.
I I would agree with you. Sort of maybe Havenwood Falls aside, because Havenwood Falls is sort of a unique beast as a writer to write something for Havenwood Falls. That collaboration piece is an entirely different piece. What would you say your normal writing process is? Like, sort of take me through, like, from the idea that pops into your head to when you hit publish, and in sort of broad strokes. We don't have to go every minute detail, but sort of like roughly
Well,
what your
first
process is like.
I wake up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, I have breakfast. No, usually
We'll
what
be
happens,
here a while, folks.
yeah, because Belinda's getting detailed. Um, Basically what happens, and it happens a lot, like I'll be watching something, I'll be reading something, I'll see a picture, I'll have a thought, um I'll see a picture and it'll spark something.
Mm.
And I'll be like, oh, this would be cool. And then I'll jot it down.
Usually at a
And
time that you can't actually stop and write something too. Is that true for
no,
you? That's
usually,
always like in the most
us-
inconvenient time.
the shower is,
Yep.
I call it a magic shower.
Yep.
It happens, I've had it where I've been driving and something that should have taken me an hour to get there takes me 3 hours because I have to keep pulling over to jot things down. Or like if I'm driving, Mark, please, my husband, jot this down. And then I have to decipher what he wrote so I can understand.
Yes, I've
Or
done that before with my children, and God love them.
it's hard sometimes to sleep. And so like last night for my nano project, I'm lying there and all of a sudden I get the perfect opening. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm trying to sleep because, jot that down. But usually it just comes from that. Or I honestly get a feeling like, ooh, who are you? Like the character will come. Oh, I get a measure of their heart first and how they feel. and then I get a name, and then it kind of goes from there. Then I'm mad writing anything down. Like when I'm working, I'll have to quickly pull out my phone and jot down, okay, this is a scene. I'll get snippets of conversation, and then it's a matter of trying to piece it together.
So you're
And
not
then,
linear necessarily. You're kind of all over in terms of
with
putting it
that,
together.
yeah.
Things don't have to come in order.
Yeah, no. I am pretty linear when it comes to the writing process, though. I'm kind of a plotter pantser in that I've got to plot it. Like, okay, for my Mystic Wolves, I always know the cliffhanger ending. I always know that last sentence first, always. And so then I'm heading for it.
Sure.
And so I'll outline it. Like, okay, this is what needs to happen. This is where we are. And then as I'm writing, the character goes, yeah, I like your idea, but mine's better. And so then a lot of the times my plot will change or the outline will change, but the destination is still the same. I have a hard time if I don't know where I'm going. And so I admire those that are like, I have no idea, but I'm just going chapter by chapter. And so I admire those because it gives me a little anxiety to not know. But then I'll go and get like Pinterest pictures. I'll build a playlist. Okay, this scene right here, like I'll hear a song, that happens a lot too. Oh my gosh, that song. Oh my gosh, like I was listening to Queen with Adam Lambert, Who Wants to Live Forever. And I was like, oh, and Mark's like, what? And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, oh, is this next? And I'm like, no, this is 2 books from now. Oh my gosh, he's gonna hurt. You know, that's my process. And so I write it, then I send it off to my editor. I try and do all my own covers. I format myself, then I publish. And yours truly is helping me with series Bible because I'm getting a little old and I don't always remember stuff. So that's been a blessing too. See, another thing that comes from collaborating and really getting to know fellow authors is your process helped make my process just that little bit easier, and because I can't work in chaos.
It's hard. Well, that was part of the motivation for doing the Writers on Writers too, is because I love to hear what other people are doing for process, because if there's something that they're doing that's easier, I want it. Because sometimes it's so hard.
And so that has really helped too, to have that at a glance, because I have big series like my Mystic Wolves. I'm on the 9th book, and I'm pretty sure it's going to go to book 13, 14 before it'll split off. And so it's
something else
that I have that. I try to write standalones. I really do try. I go with every intention, and then I fall in love with the characters, and they're like, but wouldn't you like this? Like one real quick example, it's not paranormal, but it's my contemporary. It was supposed to be 27,000. The character, and he's like, oh honey, no. That series now stands at 220,000 words from 27. And I was like, that's another part of my process too. I try not to put too much restrictions. I write till they're done. I don't. That was one thing that was hard for Havenwood Falls, was we had word count. Oh my gosh, that was hard.
That was really hard for me too. I can write either really short or really long, but not that.
I'm chatty, and so that has taught me how to try and make things concise. And so that was the challenge for me, because I'll write until the character has nothing else to say. And so they're like me, they chat a lot. They're like, well, what about this? What about
you know what? If as long as they keep talking and readers keep buying, it's all gold. It doesn't matter. So tell me what are your favorite parts about writing? Like, what is there a certain phase that you just like, oh, this is my favorite part of writing ever? And what are your least favorite parts of writing? Do you have like a, I get to do this today, or oh, I have to do this today moment?
I love brainstorming. I love the beginning of writing a story, when I'm discovering the story, the characters. Sometimes starting the story actually is the hardest for me, because I'm like, I've got to start it just the right way. There has to be that hook. It can't just be, I woke up, da 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 da.
Right.
And so once I get that beginning, and even when I'm writing each chapter, it's like I've got to get the beginning of each chapter.
Yeah.
I like it when it's full on in swing of the book, where things are flowing till right to the very end. I love writing swoon. I love writing the romance element.
Mm.
And it's not necessarily, oh, she likes writing sex. No, I love the butterflies in the stomach,
Mm.
the glances, the, oh my gosh, I love it when you've got these heroes who think they can stand alone, and then along come these women that bring them to their knees. I love everything about that. It's what I love reading. I like angst. I like the
Mm.
emotion that's
Yeah.
tied in with it. And so those are my favorite parts of writing. I would say it depends. I have a really good editor right now, but it used to be editing was the hardest part for me, because I'd
Mm.
almost feel like once the edit came back, I had to rebuild myself as an author. Like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, you really
Yeah.
suck. You thought you could write and that you could tell a story, but really, look, you're kind of suckage. But I
Oh.
think that all authors go through that. It's like,
Yeah.
what part of the story are you in? Like, what part are you reading? You're writing. Oh my gosh, this is the best crap I've ever written. Who wrote this? And then you ask them a week later, oh my gosh, I just want to delete this manuscript and
Yeah.
start again. And never, yeah.
It's true.
So,
It's true.
and
Yeah,
so,
I love a first draft. I love the possibility of a first draft and the magic, and everything is possible in that first draft. There are no mistakes. It's all gold. I love it
yeah.
all. And I really hate the second draft when I realized it was not as good as I thought it was.
What
All
was
of
I
the work that I
thinking?
have
Was I
to
drunk?
do to fix it. I really hate the second draft. That's I don't enjoy that. For those that are brand new to you and your books, is there a book that
Mhm.
you would recommend they start with for you, or just pick anyone will do? So one that you go, you know what, this really has my writing style honed the best, or does it depend on the
Oh
genre?
gosh, hone that? Dude, I'm like,
I'm asking the hard hitting questions.
oh, it just depends. Like, if you're interested in werewolves, I would say read The Mystic Wolves, the very first book. But it's also the first book I ever wrote. So have I honed my skills?
Yeah,
I don't know, you
yeah.
know, but I
The
love
first
it.
one's always
It
hard.
does capture, yeah, it captures my love of swoon, my love of character. It has that dewy-eyed naivety of, I'm a brand new author and everything is wonderful, it has that. If you're looking for, like, but if you read like Blood Oath, it's that's the last book in the Mystic Woods. You have to read them actually in order too, but it's much different. Things are much darker. The one I'm writing on now, it is much darker because we've gone in. As in terms of like in terms of paranormal, of honed my craft, I would say dive into the Havenwood Falls. They're the ones that I've written the past couple of years. My style, I think my style is the same. It just gets tighter, but
Mm,
that's also because I'm on a word crunch. If you like angst, again, it's not paranormal, but if you like gritty angst, like ugly snot cry,
I
then
do.
go to Bittersweet Melody and Bittersweet Symphony. That shows my writing style too, like of the angst and the emotional journey of it's my wounded Marine. Um, so it just really depends on what you want. I have Enchanted Hearts, which is a human who has to choose between moments with a Fey prince and the human friend she's known from childhood. And that was the story. I had no idea who was gonna get her. So I feel you can see the battle of my battle of this is young adult, but can we please make this a menage a trois? Because, oh dude, I want her to do them both. But it just depends. It just
Yeah.
depends. In the beginning, I was very timid about how I wrote intimacy. So you don't see those kinds of things. But then as I've gone, then I get a little bit more descriptive.
Yeah.
It just depends. I would say whatever tickles your fancy. If you want to read about werewolves and you like long series, then start with the Mystic Wolves. If you want to dive into the Havenwood Falls, then yeah, if you like, I've written a bit of everything: historical, fantasy, paranormal, contemporary, urban fantasy. My take was, it was all about the swoon. That's what I wanted to write in. And so,
And I do love
that answer
swoon.
your question? I don't think I really said the answer, but
No, that I assumed you would give an answer something very much like that, because mine would be the very same thing. Depends on the genre you like, you know.
it
That's
depends on your mood too.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it really depends.
yeah,
You know, and that's the beauty of writing not just paranormal but romance, like in this genre, and urban fantasy and fantasy, is that there really is something for every mood too, not just every reader, just every mood.
yeah,
Oh, you
yeah,
want, I don't want anything too heavy. Okay, there's something here for you. I want
yeah.
something that's epic and high stakes. Oh, there's something for you. I want a little bit of naughty time. There's something for you.
Do you
And
find that writing different genres is like, I say, I always struggle because I write across a lot of genres as well, and I always wonder, am I kicking myself in the butt because my poor readers don't know where I'm going? Am I not marketing the right way? Should I just stick to one box and stay there? The muse doesn't like that idea. So, but I don't know if it's a smarter move or not. But what do you think?
well, you know your readership, right? You know
Yeah,
the people that read you, and if you I think they kind of know that you're all over. Like,
they
you
do.
write what your muse dictates. And so I think as long as you share that with them, oh guys, I took you to Paranormal Town the other day, or the other release, but hey, let's take a 360. We're going down this road now.
Yeah.
And it's funny you asked that, because I am known for paranormal. For the most part, I'm known for that, and for urban fantasy. But as I've developed and grown, I'm actually considering, I've got it starting to outline it. I want to do more darker romance, more darker um, serial killers. And it goes back to
Ooh.
that. I know it goes back to, and like thrillers and suspense. It goes back to that idea that, and my brain just farted. Goes back. I just don't know what I was going to say.
That's all right. That's all
Right?
right.
You know, I can't remember. You watch. When we turn this off, I'm going to
You'll
remember.
remember it. It's fine. That's, it's part of being cooped up in the house for so long. I am wondering if, I don't know, this might be crossing a line of your comfort level, but I'm wondering if you would humor me with maybe reading a few lines, maybe of one of your books or the back of a blurb, just so that people sort of get a sense of what your books sound like, the tone, the
What I
voice.
sound like? Okay. I came prepared.
Well,
Okay.
I said bring some books so that we can show people. So there you go.
This is the first book I ever published, Mystic Wolves. And so usually in the front, I'll add like a little snippet. And so, yeah, this is paranormal romance. It's around a couple called Mason and Darcy. And it's, you want to be rude, huh? I'm not sure I know how to do that. You may have to tell me what to do. The cocky grin he'd been wearing suddenly became softer, his eyes twinkling, and I caught a flash of the boyish charm I'd fallen for. Oh no, I'm not explaining anything to you. You should know by now, Mr. Almighty, I am an alpha. Just know this, if you don't get it right, you're a dead man. He let out a rich, throaty laugh, and the sound made the soles of my feet tingle. In fact, it made everything tingle, and I braced myself. I was about to get ravished.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
I get embarrassed reading my books out. But yeah, it's just all just different. Yeah, it's pretty much like that. Just bunch kissing. No.
I'm down for that. I'm down for that. Have to add that to my TBR list. I'm all about the swoon, so it really just sounds like
Yeah.
these are books that I need in my life. So by all means.
Book too, Mystic Wolf, free on it's a free ebook. So that's another thing too. I'm risk free. Like, here's a chance to read my style and stuff, risk free.
Yeah, yeah.
All it
I did
costs
that
you is
too with my, you can't see it because I've got the thing. There we go. With my my very first ever book too is free.
You should read a little bit of yours.
No, we don't need to do that. No, that's fine. That's right. I'm the host. I make the guests uncomfortable. That is how it works. But again, that's a free e-read too. So I think a lot of authors will do that. They'll put a first, especially in a series, free, so that people can, do a risk-free, like, hey, you're a new author to me. This is an opportunity to see if I like the way you write. I like the style. Yeah. So I think that's a smart move. We're short on time. So before we go, I just want to know, where can people go to find out more about Belinda Boring? Now that they're so excited about your books, where do they find out more? Where are you?
I'm everywhere. No, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Pinterest. I have Belinda, BelindaBoringBooks.com. If you go onto social media, just type in Belinda Boring. I'm there. I'll add links to the end of this video.
Yes, we'll put links down. Okay, and,
so,
and you're on all like digital platforms like Amazon and Smashwords, all that stuff too.
Yeah. Smashwords, Kobo, iTunes, or iBooks, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Yeah, I'm there.
You're all the places that ebooks are.
I need to be, right?
Well, that does it for us. So tune in next month, and we'll be talking about steamy romance with author Catherine Rhodes. This has been Danielle Bannister with special guest Belinda Boring on Writers on Writers. Thank you, and stay tuned next month. Bye.
Bye.